What's happening? Happy Friday night to you and yours. I've got myself a Berkeley Golden Ale, if you're wondering. Thank you. Berkeley Brewing for this Golden Ale. The Patriots have made their second round pick as I take my first sip of the night with all of you. Second round pick in the books. But before we got to the second round pick, we got a trade. Patriots decided to trade the 34th pick in the second round and number 137 in the fifth, the Chargers for number 37 and number 110. Now, before we get into A.D. Mitchell, why did they not draft him? Why did they take Jalen Polk? Look, I love A.D. Mitchell as much as anybody on the field, talent-wise, but we've been talking about this the last week or two. Over the last week or two, there has been reports, there has been word, and Bob McGinn, a writer that has done this for a long, long time, he writes it every single year. He writes this column every single year, and he talks to scouts, he talks to executives, and he gets the quote-unquote dirt. A.D. Mitchell had some dirt the last couple of weeks. People say that he runs hot and cold. They say, and we're not talking about motor, we're talking about mood swings. We're talking about diabetes and reportedly some massive mood swings. And in Bob McGinn's piece, they reference something as far as he might need a handler when he gets to the NFL. And it's rather obvious. It is so obvious right now. As you see, A.D. Mitchell still not drafted. And again, he was one of my favorite guys. He's my binky. He is somebody that on the field is tremendously talented. But Bob McGinn's piece came out about a week or two ago. And, they've said, hey, look, he's got some mood swing stuff. He runs hot. He runs cold. He's mercurial. It's his teammates don't really know what to make of him and all sorts of things. And so it's rather obvious that a guy who is seen as somebody who should have been a first-round talent, we're now at what, pick 51? We're at pick 51, and A.D. Mitchell has still not been taken. So I think the league has spoken. The league has told us tonight. The league has told us tonight that A.D. Mitchell is red flagged through the league. Because when a guy is a top 20, top 25 talent, and you get to pick 51, and he still is not off the board, again, that's the league talking. So I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to second guess the Patriots. I'm not going to say a thing because A.D. Mitchell is still available and nobody seems to be interested in him right now. So there's a number of issues with A.D. Mitchell, and that obviously affected his value. He has still gone unclaimed here via the draft through the first 50-plus picks. Keon Coleman is another guy. I know he's polarizing. Keon Coleman was somebody that I had my eyes on, but he obviously was drafted by Buffalo at 33. So you wonder if the Patriots were looking at wide receiver and they were looking at Keon Coleman, and as soon as Coleman was off the board, they said, okay, well, now we can move down a few spots and still get a guy that has similar value to Coleman. Some people might say, how about Ladd McConkey? We talked about Ladd McConkey. Again, another player that I really like, but he's been banged up an awful lot. He's not a big guy. So the Patriots could have been a little bit scared of the injury history. So they make the deal, and I actually love the deal. I love the deal as far as the trade goes because they move down 3 spots. When you move down 3 spots, you're getting the same guy. Like, you're going to get the same kind of graded guy that you would have got at 34. There's not a huge difference between 34 and 37. You're going to get the same guy at 37 or somebody who's very similar at 37 than you would have gone out and gotten at 34. So you slide down 3 spots, you get the same player, you get the same value. And here's the thing, the Patriots were able to pick up a 4th-round pick. So they trade a 5th, they get back a 4th for dropping down 3 spots. And that might not sound like a big deal, but trust me when I tell you, getting that second 4th-round pick is a big deal for a couple of reasons. Number one, we've talked about this in prior podcasts. This draft is really seen as like a 4-round draft. Once you get to the 5th round, it's dead. And it's dead because you've got COVID, which prolonged everybody's career in college. So you get a lot of 5th and 6th year guys. And because of NIL. So you have a lot of older prospects. And because of NIL holding back some of the more talented young players, you get to the 5th round this year, and there's just not a lot of talent. I've read that if you get to the 5th round, you're pretty much dealing with guys that might have been UDFAs or 7th round picks 2-3 years ago. So the 5th round is a bunch of lottery tickets. You're throwing darts. So to get that 2nd, 4th round pick and to get out of the 5th, that's a big deal. It's also a big deal because the trade with the Chargers, you've got somebody who was at the top of the round that you're trading with. So the Patriots get pick 110. So now when you sit here, not only do you have 2 4th-round picks, but you have 2 4th-round picks near the top of the 4th round. You've got pick 103 and you've got pick 110. And by the way, it looks like it's going to happen in about a minute, what we were just talking about, by the way. In just a few seconds, Adonai Mitchell is going to be going to the Indianapolis Colts. So A.D. Mitchell off the board at 52. Again, a lot of people thought that he was going to be a guy that get drafted in the 20s. So you get that 2nd, 4th round pick. So now you have 103 and 110. And what that does is that really allows you to dominate the 3rd round if you want to. You can mess around. You can trade now pick 68 and move back into the 2nd round. You can trade back from 68 a few slots, and then you can, combine 103 and 110 and move. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You can stick and pick and get 2 good players at the top of the 4th round. So I like the deal. It gives Elliott Wolf a lot of options. It gives Elliott Wolf a lot of options tonight, and it gives Elliott Wolf, if he wants to, it'll give him a number of options tomorrow. So I like the trade, which led to Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk was the pick at 37, wide receiver out of Washington. And we've heard Elliott Wolf say that he wants to weaponize the offense. Well, adding Polk is going to weaponize this offense. He's got good size. He's 6'1", over 200 pounds. So he's not a small guy at all. 6'1", 203. He has some good size to him. He's got a pretty good frame. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can play the X for you on the outside. He can play the Z, which is the Kendrick Bourne role in this offense. And he can also play in the slot. So he gives you a lot of versatility. Cam Williams was with Evan Lazar earlier, and, he told Patriots Unfiltered that, he sees Jalen Polk as a matchup piece. He's somebody you can float to the outside. He's somebody you can float to the inside. He is somebody that you can move around in the Z. So what the Patriots have right now are a number of guys who can play different roles. We'll get to the weaknesses in a little while. But when you look at Polk, 6'1", 203, can play inside, can play outside. A number of people actually compare him to Jakobi Meyers. So when you look at the style of the ability to move kind of down the line of scrimmage, that's what he brings to the table. All right, before I continue on Jalen Polk, we have a couple of super chats. There's a reason Mitchell is still on the board. Yep. And, he just went. That super chat was sent before A.D. Mitchell was drafted by the Colts. But, McGriffith3 says there's a reason why he was still on the board. And yes, there's a reason why all teams passed on him. Every single team passed on A.D. Mitchell. The Colts came back and got him in the 50s. When you are a top 20 to top 25 talent, many people had him graded as a 1st-round talent. When you fall into the 50s, with the talent that he has, it's obvious that there were some questions going on with A.D. Mitchell, and we talked a little bit about that. Polk shared the field with the number 9 overall pick, Rome Odunze, and he shared the field with Jalen McMillan, still put up 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards, and 9 touchdowns. He was very productive at Washington. He was a piece of that trio, right? Adunze, McMillan, and Polk. And Michael Penix exploded by throwing the football down the field. So thank you for the super chat, McGriffith. Choo Choo comes in. Hi, Nick. Should we get Walker? Tez Walker, I'm guessing. Tez Walker, he's an X option. You know, he's a guy who can play the X. He's a bigger dude. Absolutely on the outside. He's got some questionable hands at times. Did not have a great Senior Bowl, but he obviously has the automatic chemistry and the cohesion with Drake May. I would not be surprised if the Patriots decide to double dip at wide receiver if you do see Tez Walker. If that's what they decide to do, I would not be surprised by that whatsoever, Choo-choo. It just makes me laugh every single time when I got to say choo-choo. So when you start to look at this, and by the way, we're going to continue to talk football here as long as you guys would like. But do us a favor, do us a solid, give us that thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. More eyeballs means more traffic, more people involved with the community. And of course, do not forget to subscribe. The goal is 3,500 subscribers. We are slowly making our way there. If you're just jumping in, we have a number of people coming in. Cheers to you on a Friday night, NFL draft night. Appreciate you investing some of your time on this Friday with me and the show. This is a Berkeley Golden Ale. Tastes good. I'm a big believer in starting light, and then I get to the darker beer. I take it in phases, right? Go to the beer in phases. So like, subscribe, rate, and review if you're listening to this on Spotify and Apple Pods. So back to Jalen Polk. Weaponize the offense. He's got good size. He's got great versatility. Can play inside, can play outside. His relative athletic score was pretty good. He's not fast. He is not a fast dude. He's not a burner, okay? This isn't Xavier Worthy. But he does have good athleticism. In the relative athletic score, which compares positions, right? Compares guys at the same position, and it tells you how athletic that guy is compared to others that have played in, the last couple decades, last few decades. So Kent Lee Platt is the guy who created the relative athletic score, and Jalen Polk's relative athletic score was an 8.85. If you're wondering where that slots in, Jalen Polk, again, that's out of a 10. So 0 to 10, Jalen Polk finishes with an 8.85 relative athletic score. That ranked him 393rd out of wide receivers. You say, Nick, what? 393rd? That's not good. Hold on. He was 393rd out of 3,402 wide receivers from 1987 to 2024. So when you start to look at the relative athletic score, again, everything is relative. Yes, Jalen Polk finished 393rd in the RAS, but that's out of almost 3,500 receivers that have been ranked since 1987. So he has enough athleticism. He has enough athleticism. Ipso facto. Okay? So you look at the athleticism, you look at the versatility, you look at the size, and he's got really good hands, folks. He's got really good hands. He's got mitts. There's a catch that he made. I'm trying to remember. Was it against? I don't know who it was against. Damn it. But he made a tremendous catch downfield. Penix tosses it downfield near the end zone, and just tremendous body control where Polk is diving back. He jumps and he's diving back, and he fingertips the football and brings it in as he crashes down on his back. It is one of the best catches that you will see. This dude has hands. He has hands. He's got mitts. He is great at catching the football. Fantastic at catching the ball. He's tough. He loves to block. He's a willing blocker. So he's a tough guy. He will go across the middle if need be. He will take that big shot to get the big catch. That's what he's about. So good size, inside, outside versatility, pretty damn good athleticism, great hands, very tough, willing blocker. And we've heard Gerard Mayo. We've heard Elliott Wolf. We've talked about this before. Character, culture, character. We've heard it time and time and time again. And Jalen Polk, his character is through the roof. He's a great teammate. He is willing to sacrifice. He fits the mold. He's got tremendous work ethic. So you've got the character, you've got the great hands, just all around good. You know, he told the media a little while ago he grew up watching Andre Johnson. He compares himself to Keenan Allen. So, you know, he's got that versatility. He's got the great hands. He's got the good size. He's got the great character, the tremendous character. And again, you know, I understand KMA. I see this character win football games. No, but the dude's talented. Over 1,000 yards receiving last year at Washington when he's battling alongside Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan. Got 9 touchdowns. So it's not like he's just a good character. I just gave you everything before I got to the character. I gave you 6 or 7 reasons why he's been a good football player. Mina Kimes, I don't know if you guys appreciate and respect Mina Kimes. I do. I really respect Mina. I really respect her football intelligence. I think she is very good at what she does. She was on with Taylor Kyles at CLNS this week doing her mock draft. And here's what Mina Kimes said. Mina Kimes said this about Jalen Polk. He's going to go in the 2nd round. He's not going to make it to the 3rd round. And by the way, Mina lives in Seattle, so she watches every Washington football game. She said he's a quarterback's best friend. He catches literally everything. Good frame, good route running. Said he's super smart. She said he can win at the line of scrimmage, which is important. How many guys have we seen not be able to win at the line of scrimmage? He can win at the line of scrimmage. Mina Kimes loved him. If you don't love Mina Kimes, we'll get to what Field Yates had to say about Jalen Polk. But first, got a couple of super chats. Always appreciate the super chats. King Cato's back in the house, $2 super chat. I saw Polk compared to Tyler Boyd. Do you agree? Same kind of player, right? You know, Tyler Boyd's a guy that could play inside. He could play outside. Boyd was more of a slot. You could look at Polk as, you know, more of that Z, more of the Kendrick Bourne kind of style. I don't know what Tyler Boyd's relative athletic score was. I would love to look that up. But I could see the similarities there. I could see the similarities between those two guys. But the difference is, and I'm glad I looked this up, Tyler Boyd, not nearly the athlete that Jalen Polk is. Now, I just gave you the relative athletic score for Jalen Polk. It was 8.85 out of 10, right? 8.85 out of 10. Tyler Boyd had a 4.27 RAS, and that's why I wanted to look at it, because the eye test tells me that, you know, Tyler Boyd is not a very good athlete, relatively speaking. I mean, obviously he's a better athlete than I am, but when you talk about an NFL wide receiver, you know, Tyler Boyd doesn't really jump through the screen, and his relative athletic score was a 4.27. 4.27, and Jalen Polk is at an 8.85. That tells you the difference between athleticism. Thank you for the super chat, Ken Cato. John jumps in with a $10 super chat. Thank you again. If you want to jump to the front of the line with your question or your comment, feel free by sending a super chat. If you look at his combine, he is very similar to Devontae Adams. Not saying he's the same player, but everyone needs to chill on the 40 time. If Devontae can be great, so can Polk. So John brings up a good point. You know, we've spent a lot of time talking about Green Bay and talking about Elliott Wolf's history in that front office and the type of players that he would tend to draft and that his father would tend to draft. Guys that they liked, the prototypes. And so far, we are really 2 for 2 for the most part. Polk doesn't check every box. I know he didn't make Phil Perry's, you know, prototypical Patriots list, but that was due to him not taking part in some agility tests. But when you look at Jalen Polk, he is your prototypical 2nd round Green Bay Packers wide receiver. And by the way, the Dolphins just picked Patrick Paul. So there goes one of the tackles off the board that we had talked about. So tackles, there hadn't been a tackle taken in the second round, which tells you the value of that position right now. So, that's why the Patriots didn't take a tackle at 34 or 37, because the first tackle off the board in the second round goes at 55. So obviously the tackle depth in this draft plummeted after the first 7 or 8 guys. And, you still have Suamataia out there, and Coleman is out there. So offensive tackle, obviously once you got past the first 7 or 8, drops down, declines big time. But to get back to the thought process, Elliott Wolf and guys that they like to do, guys that they like to pick in Green Bay, you look at Drake May. Drake May is your toolsy, high-ceiling quarterback. That's what Green Bay usually goes with. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. Toolsy, elite traits, high ceiling. You got May at 3. Not a surprise. You talk about Phil Perry's prototypical Patriots, our buddy Phil. Drake May was number 1 on the list as far as prototypical quarterbacks to fit the mold of an Elliott Wolf, Ron Wolf player. And now you look at Jalen Polk, and he will remind you of one of those Green Bay wide receivers that they take in the second round and they pop. Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams. I mean, there's a long list. Currently, you have Christian Watson on that team, Jalen Reed, both of those guys, second-round picks. And I had said that if we looked back at the history, I said this, I think it was a week or 2 ago on the pod, if you look back at the history, Green Bay did not use first-round picks on wide receivers. They just really didn't do it. And so it's not a surprise that the Patriots use a second-round pick on the receiver this year, because that's the playbook. And if you're going off the playbook, that's what they do. All right, let's get to Field Yates. Thank you, John, for the super chat. Artie79 jumps in with a $5 super chat. I appreciate you, Artie. Means the world to me. Everybody's sending those super chats. Thank you for financially helping me out, supporting the program. Don't forget as well to like and subscribe, rate and review. Here's what Field Yates had to say on the ESPN First Draft podcast about Jalen Polk. This guy is tough. He makes so many contested catches, so many catches that are not necessarily the highlight reel type, but are in tight areas, or when he's posting up a perimeter corner, doing things outside of his frame so consistently, making the difficult things look effortless. Making the difficult look effortless. Field Yates said, I think the run after the catch skill is fine. I get it. He had a 4.52 40. He's not going to blow you away in that regard, but if you're looking for a guy who is consistently making the difficult things look easy, it's Polk. He had a wonderful game against Michigan State in which he was making catches like he was part of Cirque du Soleil. And I was going to say Michigan State. It was Michigan State where he made that ridiculous acrobatic catch down the field. Like Cirque du Soleil. Freaking field. Field Yates finished up saying that Polk was great at his pro day. Love seeing the energy he brought to the table. Yates said, I'm in on Jalen Polk. I think he deserves to go somewhere in the second round. So both Mina Kimes and Field Yates saying they thought that Polk was a second-round pick. And that's where he ended up going to the Patriots. Another note about him, excuse me for a second, have to take a sip of this beer. Happy Friday night. Cheers to all of you. Appreciate you. Another thing about Jalen Polk, he played at Washington. Let's not forget who the wide receivers coach is for the Patriots, right? So, when you look at connections, we always talk about this. And one of my favorite things to say is that relationships matter, right? Relationships matter. When you look at any sport, especially football, the relationships matter. And when you have Tyler Hughes, who is, a quality control coach last year at Washington, Tyler Hughes is dealing. He's dealing with Jalen Polk. He knows Jalen Polk. He knows what he brings to the table and how he works and what he does. So you have that inside connection. Your wide receivers coach knows Polk very well. So let's not forget that connection. If you're wondering, Dane Brugler, with his beast, he had Jalen Polk ranked as the 13th receiver on the board. So wide receiver 13. Polk was the 10th guy off the board at his position. So it's not a reach. Not a reach at all. You look at a lot of people, they say Polk would be somewhere, between 10 and 15 ranked. Again, he goes 10th off the board, and let's not forget that you had A.D. Mitchell with his situation. So, being the 10th receiver off the board when you're ranked by Brugler as the 13th guy overall at the position, not a huge reach. So that's the good about Jalen Polk. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. There are questions. I always tell you. I did this last night with Drake May. I gave you the bad. I gave you the good. I just gave you the good for Polk. Here are the weaknesses, okay? He's not really a wide receiver one. At least he's not seen that way. Of course, Puka Nacua wasn't seen as a wide receiver one. But coming into the league, he's more seen as a two. People will tell you, the pundits, the analysts, that he will likely have a ceiling as a number two guy in the NFL, not necessarily a number one. So you're still looking for the number one if you're the Patriots. You're still trying to find that number one bona fide receiver. Polk can play outside, but it's not like he is strictly an outside big kind of X, right? So he's not really a natural X, so to speak. He's more of a natural Z, but he can play the X, similar to KJ Osborne, right? So he can play the X, but he's not really the alpha X. So at least coming into the league, again, guys can develop, guys can get better. So he's not a wide receiver one. He's not a natural X. He's not great yards after the catch. So he doesn't rack up a ton of yards after the catch. That's not really his style. He's also a little bit unrefined in his vertical route running. He's not super crisp getting downfield at all times. He's not super clean every single snap getting downfield. Again, he can give you the contested catches, and he gets downfield, and he's a threat downfield. It's just he's a little raw. He's not as refined. He's not as refined as a route runner getting downfield. And he's not the fastest guy in the world. 4.5 speed. But as we just mentioned, you look at guys like Devontae Adams, you look at some of the other Green Bay Packers wide receivers that were chosen, those guys, 4.5 speed, they're not, it's not like it's a crazy thing to draft a guy with 4.5 speed. Jordan Schultz just tweeted out that Jalen Polk is such a great pick for the Patriots and Drake May. This is what Jordan Schultz tweeted out on March 29th. So just about a month ago. According to an NFL scout that Jordan Schultz spoke with, this is what that scout said, quote, he's going to be a really good pro, makes tough catches look routine, excellent body control, natural hands catcher, can line up anywhere, could go in the second round. So pretty much bing, bang, boom. All of those things. I see somebody describing N'Keal Harry. He's not N'Keal Harry. He can get some separation at the line of scrimmage. He works hard. He's willing to work at his craft. He's got fantastic hands. He's not N'Keal Harry. Keon Coleman would have been closer to N'Keal Harry. All right, let's jump to take a couple more super chats here. Eric Meller jumps in with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Eric. Polk has insane hands. Yes. He's got great hands, great mitts. Good football IQ. Nothing like the Tyquan pick. He will play well for us. Yeah, I don't see any correlation with Tyquan Thornton outside of people just hating every single wide receiver pick for the Patriots because it's the Patriots and they haven't done well at that position for a while. I don't see the Tyquan Thornton comp at all. Again, Tyquan Thornton was like a $180 soaking wet with a brick in his shorts. You look at Jalen Polk, he's over 200 pounds. Polk is solid, 6'1", 203. He is not built like Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton was a get down the field fast kind of guy, right? That was his elite trait. His elite trait was getting down the field. Well, Jalen Polk is not a speedster. Again, 4.5 speed. But Polk has those tremendous hands and tremendous versatility. Tyquan Thornton was more seen as a one-trick pony. So nothing like Tyquan Thornton. Nothing at all. Insane hands, high football IQ, great versatility, willing blocker, super tough. Again, I wouldn't look at him and I wouldn't label him a number one receiver. But could he be a really solid, really good number two? Abso-freaking-lutely. They still need that number one, though. And will that come via trade? We'll see what happens. Kaden jumps in with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Kaden. What kind of role do you think KJ Osborne will have in this wide receiver room? Well, right now, I would say that he's probably your number one. Look, I don't think we could put numbers on these guys. It's clear to me that aside from having a legitimate number one bona fide X receiver, which they need, we all know that. They need that kind of guy, and Polk isn't really that guy. What the Patriots are doing is they have a lot of interchangeable pieces. Kendrick Bourne can move around. KJ Osborne can move around. Pop Douglas is your slot. So, Jalen Polk is going to get a big-time opportunity to prove himself. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that Polk should be the number one receiver because he hasn't played a down in the NFL yet. But if you're going off of talent, I mean, he might be your number one right now. Just off talent. And Kendrick Bourne's coming off the ACL. So they have a bunch of like 2 through 4 guys, right? I said this, I think it was earlier today. I like their wide receiver depth. I like their wide receiver room from 2 to 5. They just need a damn one. And we'll see if they do it. It's interesting. They have 2 4th-round picks now. So, for example, can they deal one of those 4th-round picks for Cortland Sutton? Can they deal a future pick for a receiver? So, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they decide to do, and if they could make something work at wide receiver 1. The latest on the San Francisco stuff is that it's quieted down. Doesn't look like the Niners are going to make a trade, but, we'll see. Could just be talk. So those are the weaknesses for Jalen Polk. Not a true number one guy. Not a natural X, so to speak. Not great after the catch. Not the best vertical route runner. And he's got 4.5 speed. But he brings a lot to the table. Let's jump in to another super chat. JM, $5 super chat. Thank you. I appreciate you. We should have kept Meyers. Given that our last regime fumbled that, I welcome this. He's Meyers with a little more juice. Yes. I would take that. I would take Meyers with a little more juice. Sorry to the Spotify people who are listening to this on demand. I just stopped talking to take a sip. The YouTube world can see me. So apologies. Again, thanks to Berkeley with this golden ale. Tremendous beer to start the night. It's perfect. So I would buy that, the Jakobi Meyers with more juice. People said the same thing about Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan is another interesting guy from Washington. He also has Jakobi Meyers vibes. But yeah, Polk is a Jakobi Meyers-like receiver. That's what he is. I'm now going to get into the habit when people ask me this stuff or bring up names. Let me find Jakobi Meyers' relative athletic score and see where he finished, if he had one. Jakobi Meyers. So again, Jalen Polk more athletic than Meyers. He's a Meyers-like receiver, and that's why JM said more juice. That's the juice. So we go back to Jalen Polk's relative athletic score, and he's sitting at an 8.85. Okay, so 8.85 for Polk Jakobi Meyers was a 6.36. So similar type of receiver, great hands, nice big frame, can play inside, can play outside, but he's got more pop. No pun intended with our guy Pop Douglas, but he has more pop than Jakobi Meyers does, if you were wondering. All right, we got more super chats rolling in. Let's go to Nelson. Hey, Nick, great show. Thank you, Nelson. $10 super chat. I appreciate you. Do you think the Patriots... Oh, by the way, I forgot to... Hold on, I got to address JM. 68. I would think tackle, right? I would think at some point you've got to go tackle. I'd be very surprised if they don't draft the tackle at 68. You got to get a young developmental tackle in the house. I don't know who's going to be available. Maybe they move up a couple of spots. I was going to stop talking for the 3rd round pick and go back in the living room, but I'm just going to hang now. We're about 10 picks away, which means they'll likely freaking trade the pick. But I would say offensive tackle, JM. I would like them to, the kid out of Yale, can't pronounce his name, not going to try. I'm just not going to, his initials are K.A. He's out there. Suamataia is also out there, somebody who I thought they might draft at 34. And let me just underline this. This really is a reminder. We can talk about players. We can rank players. We can look at mock drafts. We can do all of that. But I say it all the time. We don't have a clue. We do not have a clue how the NFL has certain players ranked. We don't know. Almost every single mock draft that I looked at would have Suamataia in the top 35, top 40. Right? Like, everybody thought that guy was going to be, especially over the last week or two, all you heard was late 1st, early 2nd round pick. We are now barreling towards the 3rd round, and he hasn't been picked yet. So nobody has an idea. The mock drafts and stuff, that's not the real value of the player. The NFL tells us, NFL boards tell us. So he was not a top 35 player, obviously. Because, we're now at 59. Blake Fisher, that's a name. I like him. Notre Dame tackle. Right tackle, not left tackle, Blake Fisher. So that is the 2nd tackle off the board in the 2nd round. Blake Fisher, he's raw. He's really young. I think he's only 20 years old. But out of Notre Dame, my Fighting Irish. So I've seen this guy play a lot. I think he's got a lot of potential. Again, he's raw. He's super young, but he's got some really good potential. So Blake Fisher off the board, that would have been one of the names I'd be looking at as the Patriots. But again, he's more right tackle than left tackle. We can't forget about that. So I would think tackle next for the Patriots. But we don't know the boards. We have no idea what the boards are in the NFL, what these rankings are within the league. Those mock drafts are useless. All right, let's get to Nelson Lloyd. Do you think the Patriots are going to go tackle this next round? Yes. Or will they trade down? Again, it really depends. It depends on what their board says, what they know, what other teams are thinking. If you get to 68 and you just don't think the value is there, this is going to be a very difficult situation for the Patriots because you had to fill 3 critical positions, and it's very difficult to fill 3 critical positions in the draft, right? You had to hit the quarterback, you got to hit the wide receiver, you got to hit a tackle. Well, as we know, you've got the quarterback, you've got the wide receiver. I would guess it's going to be a tackle, but where are the tackle graded? Where are their offensive tackles on the board? Do they think somebody's worth 68? Do they think somebody's worth climbing up above 68? We're now at 60. I would imagine you're dealing with a lot of the same value here. But I want a tackle. If they don't draft a tackle at 68, we'll see who they end up with. Again, we can't go off of these mock drafts. If they get 1 or 2 young developmental offensive tackles, then we will grade it at that point. But I think I think they desperately need a tackle. So I hope to hell that they draft an offensive tackle soon or trade for one or go out there and sign one of those bridge left tackles that we talked about before the draft, because a lot of those guys are still out there. Ryan James jumps in. Super chat, $5. Thank you, Ryan. Strange that all this Ayuk talk simmered down. Simmer down now. Was super excited earlier. Yeah, I think all of us were. I think all of us were super excited about the possibility of Ayuk. But not only Ayuk, Deebo Samuel also kind of quieted down. So whether that was teams weren't willing to give up the value, again, there's no way, there's no chance on God's green earth that I would have given, San Francisco 34 for Deebo Samuel. No freaking chance. We talked about that earlier today. I said it was all about the compensation. No shot am I giving up a second-round pick for Deebo Samuel. He's on the wrong side of it. He's still productive. He's still a good football player, but he is on the decline. Haven't said this in a while. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Like this show, like the YouTube channel. Appreciate you. We're doing work. We're putting lots of work in. Can you imagine? I'm going to go, when I'm done with this podcast, and I don't even know when I'm going to be done with this podcast, but I'm also going to record one with Big Bedard tonight. Me and Greg are going to be recording a podcast at like 11:30 to get that out there. Should be a great podcast, though. Get Greg's thoughts on the draft and what's happened so far. But yeah, tackle is critical. Tackle is critical at this point. We're at critical mass. And I know they say Chuck's a core for, but come on. So Ayuk, it simmered down, and I would imagine the Deebo Samuel idea, because let's not get it twisted. If you are San Francisco, you want to trade Deebo and not Ayuk. You want to get Deebo's contract off the books, and you want to move forward with Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall, who you drafted last night. I'm just guessing that San Francisco was hoping to get more value than what teams were offering for Deebo Samuel. And he's 28 years old. He's taken a lot of hits. He's always playing banged up. He is not your prototypical X-receiver. So I think with the drafting of Jalen Polk, I don't think Deebo Samuel will be a Patriot. I don't see that happening unless they plan on trading somebody, unless they plan on trading Kendrick Bourne, which I don't think they would do after just giving him the contract. They could cut Juju Smith-Schuster, but Jalen Polk is kind of that, can move around a little bit. Z guy. I mean, you got enough. You need a boundary, a legit boundary wide receiver, a legit boundary X. That's what you need. You don't need Deebo. You've got KJ Osborne. You now have Jalen Polk. You've got Kendrick Bourne. You've got enough guys that can play that kind of role. So we'll see what they do. No veteran receiver has been traded. T. Higgins is still in Cincinnati. We haven't heard a word about Cortland Sutton in Denver. So, we'll see what happens. Maybe a name will pop up. We're now at pick 61. So we're a few picks away. We'll see if the Patriots decide to trade. Again, if they trade down, maybe they trade up. King Cato 21 is back in the house. Nick, would you rather have them trade for a number one that they may have to restructure, or use the money they have to extend Barmore and Judon? King Cato, I'd like to see all three of those things happen. And they have the money to do it. They have the money to do it. They would not be on the phone with San Francisco talking about Brandon Ayuk yesterday unless they had the money. They offered Calvin Ridley $40 million guaranteed. They're talking to the Niners about Ayuk yesterday. They are ready, willing, and able to spend big money at wide receiver. They just have to have one of these teams be willing to trade a wide receiver to them and obviously agree on the price. But as far as money, they've got the money. Mike Reese reported that Christian Barmore, they're talking extension. They're motivated to get something done. That read to me like Barmore is going to get something done sooner rather than later. So they've got the money. Judon's interesting. You give him probably a short bump. I don't know. I don't think he's going to get that big fat contract extension that he's hoping for. I don't think that's going to happen, but you can do all of those things. Games and Stuff jumps in. What is this? $40 Canada, right? Is that what we're doing? $40 Canadian. Watching from Canada. Been here since day one. Great work, Nick. Games and Stuff. Thank you. I appreciate you. Cheers to you for the super chat. Cheers to all the people who have super chatted tonight so far. Berkeley Golden Ale. I should be getting paid by Berkeley. I've said their name 100 times tonight. Great brewery if you want to check it out, by the way. Fantastic. If you're into the craft beer, Berkeley they make fantastic beer. So cheers to you, my good friend, up there in Canada. Appreciate you. Want to get to Canada this summer at some point. Maybe to go see WWE, but who knows? I've spent too much money on WWE shows the last 3 years. But thank you for the super chat. Been here since day one. Love it. The OG. Eric jumps in. I'm getting Doug Baldwin vibes from Jalen Polk's tape. Similar build, speed, hands. I like what he can do. Yeah, look, I think he's good. I think Patriots fans are going to be happy with Jalen Polk. I think, unfortunately, that Patriots fans are well, I don't want to say all Patriots fans. Some Patriots fans, I think, are going to inevitably kind of look down at Polk and say, well, he's not a number one. They didn't get the true beast alpha male number one guy. What a joke, right? But we got grades here. Freddie B jumps in with a B+. Mr. Snoopy gives the Drake May pick an A. He gives Polk an F-. F- for Polk. I would not give him an F-. I would give Drake May, all of you know who've been watching this show. Drake May was my guy. I would give Drake May a big fat A, if not A+. I love the pick. I'd give Jalen Polk a B to a B+, somewhere in that range. Probably land on a B. But I think he's a good player, man. I think he's a good player. And I think he's going to help this offense. I think he's going to help this offense a good amount. By the way, another tackle looks like is being taken here by the Ravens. So Roger Rosengarten is going to Washington. So that's not great. I mean, look, we're at, I'd say right now, we're at like Suamataia. We are at K.A. from Yale. Again, not going to try to even pronounce his name. So, I mean, I'm trying to rack my brain off the top of my head. I'm pulling up some guys right now. But Suamataia is the name that I would have at the top of the board. I mean, I thought they might take him at 37. Shows you what I know. So let's look at some of these guys now. Trying to find these tackles. K.A. from Yale brought him up. Blake Fisher's gone. Suamataia is still there. Dominic Puny from Kansas. Rosengarten's gone. Brandon Coleman is a very interesting name. Matt Gonzalez is a very interesting name. So there are a couple of guys there for you. But again, Rosengarten is another guy that people were talking about maybe being, a first-round pick, a second-round pick. And here he is at the bottom of the second round. San Francisco just traded into pick 63. So we're getting close. I'm going to make it until pick 68. We'll get to pick 68, and we'll see. San Francisco trades the pick to Kansas City. So Kansas City jumps up. This could be a tackle. Watch Kansas City draft Suamataia. Watch. They'll get Xavier Worthy. They'll get Suamataia. And I will be very, very frustrated at that. DJ Daniel says that Rosengarten was his favorite player in the draft. So we'll see what happens here at 68. I'll hang around. King Cato jumps in. You concerned about any of the picks from the rest of the AFC East thus far? Like, I got to do the deep dive and look at what they've done. You know, I know obviously that Keon Coleman went to Buffalo. He was their first pick. The Jets added Fashanu. That was a good pick. They needed a young offensive tackle because Morgan Moses is getting older. Obviously, Tyron Smith is older. What did Miami do? I can't remember off the top of my head what Miami did. So much has been going on for the last couple of days. I've been so focused on the Patriot stuff. But we'll see what happens at tackle here. The Patriots are running out of options. They're running out of options. If you were looking for, you know, one of those good young tackles, they're almost all off the board at this point. So, you know, what do you do at tackle now, right? What do you do at offensive tackle? It seems to me that when Elliott Wolf said that Chuck Okorafor can play left tackle, it's rather obvious they believe that Chuck Okorafor can play left tackle. If they start this season with Okorafor as their starting left tackle, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I've said that from the beginning, and I knew it. There goes Suamataia to the Kansas City Chiefs. So here's what I'll say. Elliott Wolf is much more confident in this offensive line than I am. And I don't like it. They had the picks to move up. They had the picks to get a young offensive tackle. We'll see if they draft a young offensive tackle, but these guys are flying off the boards. I mean, you're now at tackle, 12, 13, 14? Suamataia was my guy. But obviously the Patriots, Elliott Wolf, didn't feel like he was worth it. Didn't feel like Suamataia was the guy. I don't know what you're doing at tackle, folks. Do you try to trade for a tackle? Is a tackle even available? It looks like they're sticking with Chuck Okorafor, and I don't like that. I don't like that plan. I don't like going into the season with Okorafor, who hasn't played more than a handful of snaps on the left side in the NFL, and with Michael Wenu being your guy on the right side, playing full-time right tackle for the first time. You have a big question at left guard. Cole Strange is not healthy. Is Cole Strange going to be able to stay healthy? So I look at tackle as a critical need for this team, and you can only go off of their actions, right? Their actions tell us that they don't agree. Elliott Wolf, the Patriots, they do not think offensive tackle is a critical need. Now, we'll see. Again, they still can land the guy from Yale, K.A. They can get Gonzalez. He's still out there possibly. But Suamataia was the last guy that was on the list that I was looking at saying, oh, he would be perfect. He would be absolutely perfect. Played the right side, played the left side at college. So now I don't know. I don't know if the Patriots are going to pick a tackle. Who knows? They could have easily moved up if they wanted to. So they either are very, very confident in their offensive line and are higher on their offensive line than I am, higher at tackle than I am, or they were just not excited about this draft at tackle. It's one of those two things. It's one of those two things. So, look, if they draft K.A. from Yale, I wouldn't hate it. They've got a couple of guys, Gonzalez and K.A., but I still think they need to address tackle. They need to. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they do. They had the picks to move up. King Cato says there's still like 6 left tackles out there. But the problem, King Cato, is that you're now drafting, the 14th tackle, the 15th tackle off the board. So, I mean, that's the issue. There are absolutely tackles that are available. Again, K.A. is an interesting guy. He really is. So he could be one of those guys that makes sense. He's a developmental guy. And you're going to go developmental anyway. Let's put it this way. They need a tackle. Just draft a tackle. Okay? Just draft a freaking tackle. I'm fine with, I'm going to try his name, Karan Amajadije. I butchered it. So, again, if you get K.A., I would say that K.A. is somebody who is that young tackle that you develop. Suamataia, to me, was somebody that had a chance to, play this season after a few weeks. Shooter McGavin says, no, Nick, drafting for need is not the way to draft. I understand, but you need to draft a developmental tackle at some point. Like you have, what are you going to do then, Shooter? Again, and look, unless Chuck Okorafor is better on the left side than we think, unless, let's not forget about Anderson. He's going to be out there this year. Brandon Coleman is another guy. I think they got to get a tackle. That's what I would say. They have to get a tackle at some point here, and we'll see if they do. K.A., Brandon Coleman, couple of names. But let's get a developmental tackle at some point. People are telling me to relax. Jimmy Wong says, how about Matt Gonzalez? Yeah, I brought him up, guy from Pitt. Look, I got a little frustrated over Suamataia. Because it bothered me. It bothered me that freaking Kansas City moved up and got him. And the fact that Kansas City ends up with Xavier Worthy and Suamataia, that frustrates me. That frustrates me. But they're a few picks away. If they get a tackle, I'm fine. Okay? If they get a tackle, I'll be fine. It's been a long few days, okay? I'll be fine if they draft a tackle. We'll see if they do that. We'll see if they get Coleman. We'll see if they draft K.A. Just get me a young foundation, like buildable, not foundational, a young moldable tackle, and I'll walk away saying it makes sense. It would make sense to me. The Jets just traded up to 65. We'll see what they do. So what would you like them to do? Start sending me some chats here. Do we agree that it's tackle? Are we in on offensive tackle? This is a pretty interesting pick, by the way, coming up for the Jets. Do we agree that tackle should be the number one priority here? All right, so Rob D says safety or cornerback. Jake says tackle. He agrees. Mr. Snoopy says tackle. Left tackle. He agrees. Kaden agrees, says yes, get a tackle. Keith says, DJ says BPA, best player available. This is jumping a lot. We got Rob saying tackle. Keith Kramer says, please, yes. Give me a tackle. Gregory wants to double up at receiver. Jimmy Wong says take a tackle with the next 2 picks. RD79 says best available. Drago says give him KA. I would like to see a tackle happen. I can't complain. Obviously, Drake May was a great pick to me. Jalen Polk was a very good pick to me. Get me a tackle here at 68, and I'd be fine with it. Big picture, 30,000 feet. When you look at coming into this draft, we thought what? We thought quarterback, wide receiver, tackle. So if you end up with a quarterback, wide receiver, and tackle out of the first 3 rounds, can't really bitch about it. I'm just I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous that they're not going to draft a tackle. That's the problem. Somebody snap me out of this. Like my worst fear is that they walk out of this draft without a tackle. I'm having I always tell people, like, don't base this draft off of the prior regime. Like, I'm starting to get like flashbacks of not spending picks on tackles. Like, it's getting to me. It's getting to me. We'll see if they get the tackle here at 68. Of course, the NFL draft continues to just drag along because they got to make it to what are they trying to make it to tonight? They're going to go to midnight. They're going to go to 11 o'clock tonight. Manolo says, Nick, it's football. We might have a gem already. Chucks is better than we think. Look, I hope so. If Elliott Wolf is right on Chuck Okorafor, then none of this matters. You know, if you draft the young offensive tackle that has potential, is raw, if you draft that guy and you say to yourself, okay, we've got Chuck Okorafor at left tackle, but he's got to work. I don't feel great about it because he's played like less than a handful of snaps at left tackle in the NFL. So, you know, I don't love the idea of just rolling into the season with him. But if Elliott Wolf nails the evaluation, if Chuck Okorafor ends up being at least an average left tackle this year, then I will apologize 1,000 times to Elliott Wolf. Personally, I don't love the idea of walking into this season with no other tackles here added to this roster. I have to think they will add one. And I'm hoping it's at 68. They have 103. They have 110 in the 4th round. You know, they could always move back into the 3rd round if they need to add a tackle if that's what they decide. But we're getting close. The Jets, they're going to draft a wide receiver here. Somebody who I think had been linked to the Patriots a little bit. Malachi Corley is going to go to the New York Jets. So Jordan Schultz is calling him Deebo Samuel 2.0. So Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky goes to the Jets. DJ Daniel says, give Okorafor a chance. I'll give him a chance. Elliott Wolf said they watched the tape. They watched the tape and they believe that he is, you know, he is capable of playing on the left side. But we'll see. And again, I've also said this. There are still veteran tackles on the market. You still have Charles Leno. You still have Mekhi Becton. You still have, I believe, Humphreys is still out there. They still have, you know, the chance at 3 or 4 veteran left tackles that are on the market that they could sign to 1-year deals if they need to patch things up. All right, so we're on pick 66. I think most people agree with me that they should be drafting a tackle. We hope they draft a tackle. We'll see if that's what they do. Meanwhile, they still haven't obviously added any defense. I don't know if you'll see defense pop up here in the first 3 or 4 rounds. It'd be interesting. Cornerback is something that we've talked about as a need, right? I mean, when you look at cornerback, you've got Christian Gonzalez. Nobody's questioning him. He's fantastic. Certainly looks like a future lockdown corner number 1 guy. But the opposite side, you got Jonathan Jones right now on the depth chart. Isaiah Bolden is on the roster, so maybe Isaiah Bolden can claim a spot. He looked like he was going to make the roster last year to start the season before he got hurt. So you've got Isaiah Bolden, you've got Alex Austin, but I do think cornerback is a spot that you could add. Free safety is a spot that you could add. So you could add to your secondary at 68 if you decide to do so. You could certainly look at maybe a tight end. I know they signed Mitchell Wilcox. They're now 4 deep, but I really think they're 2 deep. Like, I don't think, and I mean the number 2, not TOO. I do think if you're Elliott Wolf, you see, you see the top 2 guys and then everybody else, right? You've got Henry, you've got Hooper, Petway, replaceable, Wilcox, replaceable. So if you like one of the tight ends, if you got Sanders, if you like him, if you like Bell, that's a possibility. But free safety, corner, tackle, if you're talking needs, that's what you're looking at. Weinstab, love the channel, bro. I don't know about left tackle, though. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Look, I had a little bit of momentary frustration there when the Chiefs drafted Suamatai, okay? I'm allowed 5 minutes of frustration. I just hope they draft a tackle. Get that point across. If it's not a tackle, maybe they do double dip at wide receiver. Maybe they come back and look at wide receiver as a possibility. You have a number of guys out there. I mean, you really do. You have a number of receivers. Troy Franklin is still on the board, isn't he? So Troy Franklin, I don't think he's been picked, has he? I don't think Troy Franklin's been picked. Somebody let me know. I'm multitasking here. I don't think I saw Troy Franklin get drafted. Troy Franklin, he gives me Tyquan Thornton vibes. But you look at other receivers. Roman Wilson is a guy I like, Michigan. We talked about Devontae Walker, Tez Walker. So, Tez Walker, teammate of Drake May at UNC. He's another guy that you could easily see the Patriots picking if they want to move up for a tackle, if they're not worried about drafting a tackle. And there goes Brandon Coleman. So he's another guy that could be playing tackle. And of course, that was 67. So, Patriots are up next. We'll see what they do. KA is still on the board. Gonzalez is still on the board. Another receiver, Javon Baker. Javon Baker is somebody else. Now, Javon Baker is one of those ex-receiver kind of guys. So Javon Baker could also be somebody from UCF. They've been linked with him. He would be somebody that you would also look at as a possibility. Already 79, $5 super chat. Thank you. Drake, Pop, Polk. We now have a decent offensive core. What do you think the Pats offense looks like in the AVP scheme? And nobody, I'm going to pause that for a second. Let's not spoil it. If you see it on Twitter, the Patriots pick is in. We'll see what they do. So it's not a trade. The Patriots are picking. Is it going to be an offensive tackle? Is it going to be a wide receiver? Are they going to go outside the box and maybe go defense? You could look at a tight end. You could, of course, as I said, look at cornerback. You could look at free safety. But the Patriots pick is in. And I'm hoping we see tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an ex-receiver just to cover their tuk-tuk. And we'll see we'll see what they come up with here. As I await, this is always the best part because they take 45 minutes to walk up to the podium. Drives me crazy. Did they take a break? Are they taking a break? They took a break. All right. I'm going to spoil it. I'm not waiting for the break. Not going to happen. So the Patriots have decided to draft a tackle. So the Patriots have decided to draft a tackle. They do get the offensive lineman, Kaden Wallace from Penn State. He started 40 games at right tackle. So they do draft a tackle. Offensive tackle, Kaden Wallace from Penn State. Multi-year starter. He did take a 30 pre-draft visit to the Patriots. So they took a tackle. At least they took a tackle. Now, again, he played right tackle. I don't know if he projects to be able to play both. I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. I don't know Kaden Wallace, okay? I wish I did. I'll look him up. I'll see what we can find. Because I have no idea who Kaden Wallace is. I am not, I'm not somebody who knows the, pick 75 to 100 when we talk offensive line. I had a couple of guys. I had my KA guy, all that stuff. All right, let's see. Trying to pull it up here. He played in 8 games, 7 starts in 2022, 7 starts at right tackle. He started all 13 games at right tackle this past year. Honorable mention all Big Ten for the conference. Here is Lance Zierlein's scouting report on Kaden Wallace. Wallace played tackle in college, but could be considered as a tackle or guard by NFL evaluators. He's broad across his upper and lower body, has decent length and big hands. Clock puncher who plays with better fundamentals and technique than his highly regarded teammate Olu Fashanu. Oh, okay. Better fundamentals and technique than Olu Fashanu, according to Lance Zierlein. Wallace will not flash as often as a run blocker, and he might be somewhat capped out in terms of what he's going to be as a tackle. Has NFL size, good body control, should find work as a backup with potential as a guard to start as a guard or tackle. So Lance Zierlein has him as a backup to possible starting guard or tackle. Zierlein had him as a 4th round projection. So, obviously you get the 3rd round for Kaden Wallace. His total score, when you look at next gen stats, combine offensive tackle was 15th. Interestingly enough, I will say this. He has 34-inch arms, right? So that's kind of the magical number, right? So it looks like he's got long enough arms to play tackle at the NFL. So it does look like he has long enough arms to play tackle. He is graded out, at least by Lance Zierlein, as an average starter. So again, just trying to grab information on Kaden Wallace. But here's what I will say. You came in needing a tackle, needing a left tackle. Do they think he can play left tackle? He played right tackle. He played right tackle at Penn State. 6'4", 317 pounds. Andrew Callahan is tweeting this out. He took a pre-draft visit. As we said, he's an above average athlete. Might be able to play offensive guard as well. So they drafted an offensive lineman. Now the question is, did they hit on the guy? Is he going to be able to develop and become a starting tackle? Now, he's not going to start, obviously, this year. He's not going to start. Here's what I'm going to say. Again, it's Kaden Wallace. How many of us knew who Kaden Wallace was and knew what he did in his track record and how he projects, okay? I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I can tell you if Kaden Wallace is going to be an all-world starting offensive lineman. I don't know the guy from a hole in the wall. I don't know him. And not many of you know him, right? So, again, we can sit here and we can talk about, oh, well, he's ranked this by this guy, this by that guy. We don't, again, don't make excuses. Do you know Kaden Wallace? Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the pick is bad. I'm not going to tell you the pick is good. I don't know who Kaden Wallace is. I'm going to be genuine with you. I have no clue who this guy is. No clue. So you've got Scott Peters as, you've got your offensive line coach. You've got Kugler. They're going to have to develop this guy. It's as simple as that. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, oh, Kaden Wallace is a bad pick. I'm not breaking down the all 22 of the right tackle at Penn State. I know Jalen Polk. I can give you an educated opinion on Jalen Polk. I can give you the grade of a B for Jalen Polk. I can give you thoughts on Drake May. I watched a lot of those guys. I've seen them play. I know how I feel about them. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that Kaden Wallace is a home run, a triple, a double, or a swing and a miss. It's not excuses. I'm just telling you. I'm ignorant to the player. And I don't think anybody, like, I don't think anybody knows, like, Kaden Wallace. Ramsey says it's a good pick, so he's in on it. Right? IF3ARHD, no excuse for the pick. It's awful. Again, here's what I'll say. And you process this stuff in real time, right? Here's what I'll say. They needed a tackle. They drafted a tackle. We don't know if the tackle is going to be good, great, or bad, or terrible. We have no idea. They came into this draft needing a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a tackle. Those were their top three needs. They swung big at the quarterback spot at 3. They swung for the fences. I love the pick. Jalen Polk, I really like the pick. Again, I think it's a B. I give him a B on Polk. I give him an A on May. I can't give you a grade on Kaden Wallace because I don't know who the hell the guy is. I haven't watched him play. So I don't know. I'm not an offensive line guru. But he has good size. He's got good arm length. He's got some good athleticism. And just reading off of Lance Zierlein, he has good technique and good fundamentals. You hired Scott Peters. He's a well-thought-of offensive line coach. Kugler is a very, very, very well-thought-of, offensive line coach, an up-and-coming guy. It's going to be up to your offensive line coaches to get the most out of this offensive line. Would I have felt better with Suamataia? Yes, but that's because I know of him. I know him. So I'm not going to tell you that Kaden Wallace is good or bad. I'm happy they took a tackle. I'm not going to sit here and reverse field when I was saying, hey, man, look, here we go. Let's get a tackle, and then they draft a tackle. I'm not going to turn around and go, oh, my God, Kaden Wallace, when I don't know the guy? We could have had this dude at 110. We don't know that. How do you know that? Did you know that A.D. Mitchell was going to fall into the 50s? Did we know that Suamataia was going to fall to the 60s? We don't know that. We have no idea. We wish we did know, but we don't know. RD79, Drake, Pop, Polk. How's the offense looking, the AVP offense? Got to get back to that. So, look, Pop is going to work in any offense. He's a quick slot guy. He can get open. He can do damage after the catch. He can run those jet sweeps. He can do all of those things. So Pop will be fine. Drake is a perfect fit. Drake May is a perfect fit for the scheme. He can throw the ball off platform. He can throw the ball, in the bootleg action, off the bootleg action. He has played with his back towards the offensive and defensive lines. He has the arm to test defenses vertically. He is the best quarterback in this draft, throwing to the middle of the football field. So Drake May is a fantastic fit. A fantastic fit. As far as Polk, you tend to think of guys that are like yak machines, right? In the AVP West Coast offense. But I think because Polk is so versatile, he will be a good fit. So I think you got good fits with all three of those guys. Thank you for the super chat, Artie. I appreciate it. Eric Griffin, I'm not going to doubt the guys who have done the work. Right. Like, if you're freaking out about Kaden Wallace, you're freaking out just to freak out. Because we don't know who he is. How many people knew who Michael Wenu was when he was drafted in the 6th round? Like, Kaden Wallace could end up being god-awful. But what if he's good? I just wanted a freaking tackle. Give me a tackle, I'm happy. So I'm happy. I would have liked Suamata Ia more, like I said, because I know him, but I'm happy. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. You now have picks 103 and 110 if you want to try to move up back into the 3rd round, or you can wait and you have two picks at the top of the 4th. So it's up to Scott Peters. It's up to Kugler to get the most out of these guys. King Cato jumps in with another super chat. Thank you, King Cato. Where is Owenu projected to be playing again? Right tackle. They project him to play right tackle. So he will be on the right side. Chuck Okorafor will be the left side. We'll see if they add a veteran guy. Again, I am not confident going into the season with Okorafor on the left and Owenu on the right. Hopefully Okorafor works out and I'm wrong. But I'm not going to bank on a guy that's never played at the NFL level more than a handful of times on the left side. I know he played it in college. We'll see. Elliot Wolf said that they think he can play on the left side. We'll see if that's the case. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. All right, I haven't said this in a long time. I'm going to cut this off in about 8 minutes because I'm almost 90 minutes into this pod. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. You have enjoyed the content. So we got about 10 minutes left. But give me that thumbs up. Please give me that thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Trying to hit 3,500 subscribers. That is the next goal. All of the super chats, can't say enough. So King Cato Owenu will be your right tackle. Okorafor will be on the left side as of right now. We'll see if they trade for a vet left tackle. I don't think they will, given what Elliot Wolf said about Okorafor. We'll see. But that is what we're looking at currently. So I'm not thrilled with the offensive line on the left side. I'm not happy with it. Right now, April 26th, almost 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm not thrilled with the left side of this offensive line at all. But as far as this draft goes, I'm fine with it. I love the May pick. I really like the Polk pick, and they drafted a tackle. Nelson Lloyd. Peters was smiling from ear to ear with this pick, so we might be able to make him a left tackle, so let's give him a chance. Yeah. Again, I'm going to give him a chance. I don't know anything about Kaden Wallace. So I'm going to give the young man a chance. Again, he's got good size. I'm sure we'll read a lot more about him over the next couple of days. So I will give you this. Eric Galko, who is the director of operations, player personnel at the Shrine Bowl, he just tweeted out, Patriots just got an instant impact offensive lineman who can potentially start at offensive tackle in Kaden Wallace. Over 1,000 snaps at offensive tackle. After a dominant Shrine Bowl, consistently shows smooth, efficient movement skills. So there you go. So there's somebody in Eric Galko, again, the director of football operations, player personnel of the Shrine Bowl. He loves the pick. So that's why I'm not going to tell you that Kaden Wallace is going to fail. I can't tell you he's going to be great. Everybody has their favorites, right? Everybody thinks this or that. This guy's going to be great. Maybe he will be. But we really don't have an idea. I'm just happy that they got a young developmental tackle, a guy who has played a lot of football and started at the college level. That's a good thing. Now we'll see if he can work out. Doug Kyde. Let me roll through some of this stuff for you guys, give you the latest. So Doug Kyde from a scout, Kaden Wallace, big, long, and strong. Is he down to get the friction on? Super steady, but not flashy. So that was a scout to Doug Kyde. Patriots director of scouting is speaking right now. So here's good news. See, this is why we don't pass judgment on guys we don't know about. So Elliot Wolf says the Patriots feel that Kaden Wallace is athletic enough to play on the left side. So the Patriots, Elliot Wolf, they see Kaden Wallace as a guy who can play at left tackle at the NFL level. So that is good news. They feel that he's athletic enough to make the move. Here's another person, okay? Louis Riddick on Kaden Wallace. This is what he said, quote, "This is my guy. I like a whole lot of things about this player. I'm going to struggle to say anything bad about him. I thought his tape was as good as his much more heralded left tackle in Olu Fashanu." So Lance Zierlein and Louis Riddick both said that they felt like Kaden Wallace was more fundamental and had better technique than Olu Fashanu. Louis Riddick is saying that Kaden Wallace, the tape that he saw, was as good as Fashanu. Riddick said this guy is another solid pick. Do you feel better about Kaden Wallace now? Because we're actually getting some information on the guy. So Pro Football Focus. Kaden Wallace, how did he do against Aiden Hutchinson? Now I'm starting to feel the vibes. Kaden Wallace against Aiden Hutchinson and Jack Sawyer. 31 pass blocking matchups. 0 pressures allowed. 0 sacks allowed. So, you know, here's Andrew Callahan who says that Wallace struggled with balance and speed off the edge. That's according to Daniel Jeremiah. He's a player who supposedly committed himself more last year and showed marked improvement. So Wallace apparently was one of 9 Power 5 offensive tackles to get beaten on 4 or fewer snaps last year. Wow. All right. See, we start to gather information. That's what we do here at the Nick Cattle Show. I don't pan a pick because I don't know the guy. I research the guy. I look at what people say and do. So he struggled with balance and speed off the edge, but apparently he committed himself more this past year, according to Daniel Jeremiah, and he showed big-time improvement. He was one of 9 Power 5 offensive tackles to get beaten on 4 or fewer snaps last year. 6'4", 314. He's 24 years old, so he is an older prospect. Phil Perry. Again, he has long arms. We talked about that. 34-inch arms. That is tackle length. Long arms, big hands, explosive tester. Had a 9'8" broad jump. And Phil Perry tweets out that there are some physical traits to like from New England's end, but right tackle seems settled. Curious if Wolf and company believe Wallace can flip to the left side. And again, Elliot Wolf did say to the media that he believes that Kaden Wallace can play on the left side. Evan Lazar. Kaden Wallace just missed on his big board. Here is Evan Lazar's Film notes on Kaden Wallace. Well-proportioned frame, very balanced, good movement, 34-inch arms, keeps pass rushers out of his frame, good recovery, solid initial jolt, has movement skills to combo to the second level. His weaknesses, gets cornered sometimes with mirroring speed rushers. Again, so some trouble with speed from time to time. And plays at times with a raised pad level for you offensive line gurus. But Evan Lazar says that he was just outside of his big board. Lazar says that he has the feet and the length to stick at tackle for the Patriots. Very balanced mover in his pass sets. So, are you starting to feel better? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not starting to feel better. But the more we look up on this guy and the more that we research this guy, the more good things we hear about him. Here's more from Elliot Wolf. He said that they had exploratory talks. The Patriots had exploratory talks of moving down from 68, but didn't do it because Kaden Wallace was the player they wanted all along. So they had Kaden Wallace as the tackle that they wanted. They could have moved down from 68. They decided to stick and pick because they really wanted Wallace at 68. That's according to Elliot Wolf. He was the player they wanted. He was the player they targeted. Wolf said that if they stayed at 34, Jalen Polk would have been the pick. They had good intel, and they knew they could get him at 37. So this stuff is just coming in now from the media doing a great job over there. And Wolf also said that the run-on tackles convinced them to stick and pick at 68. They obviously weren't willing to risk it. McDowell's, Nick, keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate you. It's a $2 super chat. Comes back with a $5 super chat. McDowell's Human Resources Department. Still one of my favorite names. Most of these second-round picks would be ones if it wasn't such a loaded offensive draft. There's a little of something for everyone in this draft. I would say overall, I'm happy with the first 3 rounds. I'm happy with the first 3 rounds. I had my moment, and that's what happens when you're going live. I had my moment for about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes when Suamataia went to the Chiefs. I had my moment. I got through my moment. And the Patriots, they draft a tackle, which is what I wanted them to do. The more you read about Kaden Wallace, the better I feel about Kaden Wallace. So Elliot Wolf just said that Olu Fashanu's presence at left tackle was the reason why Wallace was stuck at right tackle. So Wolf says the reason why this guy didn't play on the left side is because you had Fashanu on the left side. He would have played on the left side if it wasn't for that. So you came into this draft, quarterback, wide receiver, tackle, that's what you needed. You walk out of the first 3 rounds with a quarterback, wide receiver, and a tackle. You take Drake May, who I love. You take Jalen Polk, who I really like. And you take a guy in Kaden Wallace, who, from how I read it, there's some traits here. And now it's up to Scott Peters and Kugler to get the most out of him. We're over an hour and a half. I still have to do the pod a little bit later with Greg. So I'm going to tap out for the night. I'll be back on Monday with my full thoughts on the draft. We'll look at this roster, where it's set. After tomorrow's action, Patriots picking at 103 and 110. Should be very interesting what they do. Thanks to everybody who watched me on this Friday night. Let's give a cheers here. Thank you. I appreciate all of you who have stopped in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review. Very long episode tonight. I think it was worth it. We went through all the emotions, but I feel good. I feel good after the first 3 rounds. I do. I wouldn't say great, but I feel good. I appreciate you. I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Back on Monday. Bye-bye.